Good evening, everyone. My name is Caroline Odogu. Thank you so much for joining Dear Future Self. I am the co-founder and director of She Is You UK, and we're so excited to have you joining us tonight. We have two fantastic speakers lined up to inspire you to share their stories, to share their gems, their challenges, as you also think about your journey and your life as well. All right. I'm going to interview two of our fantastic Youth Leadership Board members. They're two amazing young women. They go by the name of Tyra and Osas, and they're going to be your hosts tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Osas now to introduce herself and to run through the rest of the session.
So hi everyone, I'm Osas. I'm a medical student at UCL in my second year, and I'm part of the She Is You Youth Leadership Board. Today, from the Youth Leadership Board, it's me and Tyra, and we're going to be interviewing these two lovely ladies. I just wanted to quickly plug the Youth Leadership Board because it has been a great experience so far. I think it's really helped us in terms of growing our confidence, being able to put ourselves out there, also being able to be vocal, so speak about what matters to us in the community, and I think it's given us that opportunity to actually feel empowered. So I would encourage anybody who isn't already part of the network, whatever age you are, to join, because I do think it is a great opportunity, and being part of the leadership board specifically, there's opportunity to put that on your personal statement, there's opportunity to put that as credentials on your CV, and apart from that, the value of it itself, yeah, I think that is actually great. So I just wanted to also talk about what you would get from the program. The program, as Caroline mentioned, is endorsed and run with Dear Future Me, and that aspect of it will allow everybody to get a huge element of personal development out of it. On a weekly basis, we'll actually be trying to source different gems from the interviews that we have. So with all the inspirational ladies that we've got on here to interview, we hope that you'll be able to take away a lot of things that you might want to tell your future self. And so the point of it is that you would basically write a letter to yourself or email to yourself, send it off, and it should come back to you in either a year's time, 3 years time, or 5 years time, and we'll show you the page. The link should be in the chat so you guys can check it out as well in the break time. But the point of it is that in the future, you'll be able to see, okay, what were the little things that I picked up from these sessions? How have I put this into my life? What kind of woman did I want to be? Am I on track? So basically, you can see whether your vision is coming to light about who you want to be as a woman. And we just think this is a great opportunity to be able to develop yourself as a person, and to be aware. So last week we did have a lot of gems, and one of them was being self-aware. So that is really what we're trying to push here, being self-aware and also furthering ourselves and keeping on track. So I'm going to pass on to Tyra to talk about the prizes that are also available as part of the program.
Hi everyone, so my name is Tyra, and I'm so glad that you're all here and excited for what we have in store for you this evening. So my name is Tyra. I'm also a part of the Youth Leadership Board, and I'm a first year accounting and finance student. So I'm going to talk about some of the prizes that we have to give away. So like Caroline mentioned earlier, if you attend 3 or more sessions, you'll be automatically entered into a prize draw. And we have some great prizes to give away. Some of these include personal branding sessions with from Shapeways, coaching sessions from Business Launchpad, gift vouchers worth £50. We have some food vouchers from Juicy Jerk, which is an amazing family-run Caribbean restaurant in Tooting. And they will also be giving away some mentoring session as well. And we have some of our guest speakers who will also be offering up some free mentoring. So like I said, if you want a chance to win some of these prizes, make sure you come to at least 3 sessions or more. But after today's session, and what I'm sure you're going to want to come to all of them, because we've got some great we heard some great gems last week, and I know we're going to hear some even better ones today and for the future weeks ahead. So now I'm going to pass it back on to Osas, and she's going to talk a bit more about She Is You and the mentoring.
Thank you, Tara. So just to talk about She Is You, the network itself, as Tara has mentioned, as Karen has mentioned as well, it is a network with a lot of women, all ages, different backgrounds as well, and involved in different sectors as well. So we have ladies in the healthcare sector, ladies involved in media, business. So it's a vast variety of people, and we all come together a lot of the time to discuss the things that we have going on, also to enrich ourselves. So we've gone to several events and done several things, undertaken several projects. For example, we had the opportunity last year to go to City Hall and interview the Deputy Mayor. So she usually provides great opportunities. And I do encourage everybody to get involved if you can. And I think the link should be in the chat either now or in the break. So I'm going to pass it on to Tyra to introduce our interviewees, and I hope you guys pay attention. If you have any questions after each interviews, that's when the questions will come up. And just to mention as well, the session is recorded, so if you don't want your face to be anywhere, then keep your camera off.
Okay, so now I'm going to introduce our first speaker, the amazing Camilie Johnson. So Camilie is a product-based business expert and the founder of MCJ Consultancy and Pink Ribbon Lingerie. So can we welcome Camilie to this big screen and give her a virtual round of applause using the Zoom reaction button like this.
Welcome to the floor, Camilie.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Camilie. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure.
So the first question we have is, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a brief introduction.
Okay, so my name's Camilie. I was born in the borough of Wandsworth. I live in the borough of Wandsworth. I work in the borough of Wandsworth. And I am a product-based business expert and consultant. I help businesses increase sales, increase profit, improve customer retention and customer conversion. I also teach brands how to get their brand stocked in retail stores. My background is in buying and merchandising and operations management within the beauty industry. And I also have trained as a business counsellor. So I used to work at Business Launchpad as a business counsellor, helping brands who had a business idea and help them develop their idea, launch and scale their business. And so I know that's one of the prizes on the part of the program. So I implore anybody that's interested in starting a business to really look into that or take up that opportunity, because it's a great organization. About 2 years ago, after working with a lot of brands in the beauty industry as an operations manager, I decided I wanted to work for myself and stop commuting into London, and decided to set up started to do my consultancy full time instead of just part time. And so I started working from home and working with brands. And then about 4 months before COVID, I decided to change that to a one-to-many system so that I could work with more than just maybe a handful of brands each year. So I work one-to-one with people, but I also do group workshops and courses and programs as well.
That's great. I even personally I'm following your Instagram. I get subscribed to your newsletter, so always giving amazing tips. I've had consultations for my own small business with you, so you're amazing and knowledgeable and so helpful. So that's amazing. So like you said, you mentioned that you have a background in buying and merchandising. Could you explain a little bit more about what that is for those who may not know?
Yeah. So imagine when you go into, say, a department store like House of Fraser or John Lewis, you may have heard the term of a buyer. A buyer is the person that goes and finds a new brand to be stocked on the shelves. And a merchandiser, there's two types of merchandisers. There's visual merchandisers, which are the people that put the stuff on the shelves and make it look organised and pretty and do the window displays and stuff like that. That's not what I am. I am a merchandiser that works in the buying office, who works with the buyers, and we are responsible for forecasting the sales, looking at trends, producing something that's known as open to buy, which is basically working out how much profit we're about to make and giving the buyer money to spend and replenish the stock that's being sold. We also are basically the gatekeepers of the business. We make sure everything's working. It's up to us to make sure that the replenishment systems work, so that we're ordering enough stock, that we're not too overstocked. We do all of the negotiations, or a lot of the negotiations, with the buyers, with the brands, to make sure that that department store is running effectively and smooth. So you can start as an entry. The way I got into the career was I worked at Topshop in Oxford Circus many years ago. And I had an opportunity to work for their website. And so because of that, I learned about what happens at head office, and most people don't get the opportunity. So I thought, I want to do that. I want to learn more. I want to be a buyer. So I went to the London College of Fashion and did a short course, an evening course, to learn about buying, and then discovered that what merchandising was, and realized I'm really good at numbers. This is probably better suited for me. And then I applied to Debenhams to be an allocator. And an allocator is the person that allocates stock from a warehouse or multiple warehouses into, say, over 100 stores that Debenhams had at the time. And so that's how I started in the industry. And then I moved up to be an assistant merchandiser, and then a merchandiser, moving to different companies. So I've worked at House of Fraser, and I've worked at Selfridges as well. And then the operations management side is when I went to, instead of working for head offices, I went to work for brands. And the operations side of things is when you look at the business as a whole and you try and see what you can do to improve how the business is running, but you're also in charge of the functionality from warehouse management, importing, exporting, stock management, and loads of other things in between. That it can be really, like, depending on who you work for, what your responsibilities are.
That's great. I think sometimes when you go into the shop, you know, when you see all the products, you don't think about, like, behind how the products get there, and all the logistics and the planning that to get all the products on our shelves. So that's great. So did you know that you always wanted to own a business, and what route did you take to get to starting your own business?
So I know I didn't really touch upon it. I do have another business besides my consultancy. 11 years ago, I set up Pink Ribbon Lingerie, and it launched 10 years ago. And that's an online store that sells post-mastectomy lingerie, sleepwear and swimwear. And they're basically products that are suitable for women who've had breast cancer surgery. And my mum's a breast cancer survivor, so that's why we launched the business. And I don't think that I knew I wanted to start a business. When I was at school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And sometimes I can be quite, I don't know, when you're like, you just make a decision, you can be like headstrong and not think about things. And so I remember sitting in my last exam at secondary school. It was religious education. I finished my exam with 30 minutes to go, and I got the note, like the note taking paper, and I wrote a pro and a con to staying at sixth form. And the con list was longer than the pro list, so I decided I'm not staying at sixth form, just like that, and decided I'm going to college. And so sometimes I'd make these choices in life, but I didn't know what I wanted to do at college because I didn't know what I wanted to become. And so I decided to do business studies because I thought it will come in useful one day. But I wasn't really interested in it at the time. It obviously now has become very useful. And then when I got into my career, which I said I worked in retail, there was the opportunity to work for the website. It just happened that I found out that I really liked learning about what happens at head office and all the different roles, and that's how I got into it. So I kind of fell into it. But my mum had her own business. When I was 12, she started her own business. My granddad had his own business, and my great uncle had his own business. So although it wasn't saying I really want to have my own business, everybody around me had their own business. So I think it was gonna happen. And then, so when I decided to start Pink Ribbon Lingerie, it was because there was a gap in the market. And the principles of merchandising is about having the right product in the right place at the right price. And that wasn't happening for women following breast cancer surgery, because my mum couldn't find the products that she needed with ease, and that's what we wanted to fix. But I couldn't get funding straight away for the business, and so it took 5 years in the end of when I couldn't get funding. I went to a lot of banks to get loans and was turned down repeatedly. I decided to carry on with my career, but use my career to help me, give me the skills that I would need. So I always put myself forward to learn you know, to be the first aider so I could learn first aid training. And that's going to come in useful if I have a team of staff. I put myself forward for negotiation courses. I thought about the skill sets I would also need for one day running a business, and utilized the company I was working for to give me those skills and really help me learn more. And that way I also didn't pay for it. And then I read a book called The Alchemist, and I read it in 3 days. And sometimes I go through moments where I read loads and other times I don't read very much. But I read this book, I couldn't put it down. I finished it at like 2 a.m. on Sunday. I went into work on Monday, again, crazy, resigned, without a plan. I don't advise it, don't follow me. This is a lesson to learn, don't follow what I do. Sometimes I do the wrong thing. And decided, I know I've got all the skills to do the business. I should do the business. So I remortgaged my house, took out the money and started the business. Now I know that isn't always possible for some people, but it was the book that kind of like really was the trigger for me. And it's an amazing book, and it really talks about journeys and paths, and everybody can like take something different from the book, but it was that thing that I knew internally that I should be doing the business that I wanted to do. And you know, I've grown up with my mum who loves helping people, and I knew that I wanted to help people that had gone through the journey that my mum had been on. And so that's why we started the business. And then what I do now is helping people in business and helping them have success and grow. So I'm passionate about helping people, and ultimately I get to do what I love, and then also help people as well at the same time. So it's great.
That's great. That is absolutely great. So The Alchemist is a book I'm adding to my list as well, and I think everyone to do the same. Sounds.
I lent my copy to somebody and I don't have one, so I'm gonna have to get another one.
So moving on and talking more about your business and your brand. So how do you promote your brand, and what are your top tips on promoting a brand?
Okay, so it really, the biggest mistake most businesses make, and why they end up needing a consultant, is because they don't get they come to you when they've got problems, and they don't come to you beforehand. So I always implore people, if you don't have the knowledge or the skill set, it's better to spend the money up front and learn how to achieve your goals in the best way and with more ease, working with a consultant. And that can be anything from a power hour session, like a one-off session just to get you on your starting point, or it can be working on a program or working with an organization like Business Launchpad. That will be invaluable. But the biggest thing and problem that a lot of businesses do is they don't hone down on who their customer avatar is. And what that means is they don't know who their audience is. They go too wide. So for example, my brand, Pink Ribbon Lingerie, was really easy to niche down. It's only for women who've had breast cancer surgery. So that's so easy. But imagine I was selling just lingerie that most women could wear. If you market to all women, you're not going to get great results. You need to really say, I'm targeted women aged between 25 and 35 who earn a certain amount of money, who like to shop in these type of locations, whose favorite TV program is here, who love to go on holiday once a year with their friends to these type of destinations. Because when you know exactly who your customer avatar is, you're going to make sure that you're on the right social platforms where that audience is, and then you're going to market to them more effectively. So the money that you spend if you do paid advertising will have a better return on investment than just marketing to all women. And so that's the one thing that most people don't is work out who their customer avatar is and then market. What they try, and a lot of people do, is they'll be like, I've got to be on all the social media platforms, and you really don't. And that will take a lot of time because you won't be consistent, and if you're not consistent, the algorithms won't work for you, and then you won't get the results. So for Pink Ribbon, I use Facebook and I use Instagram mostly, and my mailing list. Your mailing list in any business is the most important thing in your business because it's the thing that you own. If Instagram and Facebook decide they want to stop trading in the UK today and we can't access them, you've lost your list of potential customers. So you need to try and work out how you can get them from that app or that social media platform onto your mailing list. And then for my consultancy, I use Instagram and I use Clubhouse. They are the two areas that have the best reach for me and where my audience are.
That's some great tips, I think. I think especially the one about the mailing list as well, because I think it's very easy. Everyone has like Instagram, but you don't think about like what happens if Instagram were to stop, or Facebook. So I think,
there's people that have been blocked out of their accounts and they can't access them again, and you don't want to ever be in that position. So don't learn the hard way. Know that there's get the list. I always tell people, before you launch, you can build your mailing list. You can start building it. You can start building that excitement, getting people to know you, and so that when you are ready to launch, you've already got a customer base that's waiting for you to sell to. So your list is really important, guys.
So what would you say are the biggest misconceptions when it comes to running a business?
Gosh. All right. So I would say most people, especially creatives that are passionate, think that they're going to spend most of the time making things and doing the things they really love. And actually you spend most of your time doing the marketing, the promotion, the accounts, and not necessarily the fun stuff. So just be aware of that. And it's not easy. We all start work so that we can, we all start our own business so that we can make loads of money, work the hours that we want, live the life that we want, the life we don't need to holiday from, as I like to say. But what I want to just bear in mind is that the first few years are going to be tough. They're going to be lots of work. You're going to work even more hours. I've worked, 14-hour days like it's nothing. It just flies, and you'd be like, that's not probably what you expected. But once you put in that work, and you start having the foundations in place, then you can really grow and accelerate quite quickly. But it's not going to happen overnight. You've got to put the work in. And I would also say, don't continue to struggle at the things you struggle with. Outsource where you can. Get an expert. It will save you time. It will get you better results. So just don't try and be the jack of all trades.
Great. I think that's some really good advice. I think sometimes it's easy to think that, I think sometimes social media as well makes it look like, being a boss, and I think it is great, but I think it's not always showing like the realities on how to get there. Like you said, it doesn't happen overnight, and the first years are definitely more work, but it's like worth it in the end. Definitely. Yeah.
You got to imagine, social media is like the best picture out of 100 pictures. So know that there were 99 bad pictures that nobody wanted to post about what's going on. Nobody's seeing that actually every Monday morning I get up at 5 a.m. and I schedule all my posts so they're done ahead of schedule. But I do that so they're done for the week ahead, while they're done from Wednesday to Wednesday. And I do that so that they're done. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to stress about them. I'm very aware that there's sacrifices I make, so I'm never up late on a Sunday. If I'm up late on a Sunday, the rest of my week is a mess because I'm going on empty from day one. So but I've chosen to make that choice, but it pays off because then my engagement's better and I'm not rushing around thinking I've got to post today, I've got to post today, I've got to post today.
Yeah, I agree. So what would you say, what does success mean to you?
Success means helping other people do well, or like, okay, so for Pink Ribbon, success is when we get a message back saying, I had an amazing holiday with my kids on the beach and I wasn't self-conscious. I wasn't thinking that people were staring at me because I've got scarring. I felt really comfortable. That is success for me. That's how I measure Pink Ribbon. That business is there to provide a service. It's quite an unusual business. It's not one that's there to make me rich. It's literally to help other women going through a journey that is really difficult. Whereas MCJ Consultancy success for me is really, there's always going to be looking at your sales and your profit. That's always going to be a measure, and you want to increase the sales that you make, the profit you make each year. So that's one measure. But it's also, because my business helps businesses do well, that's another measure. If I've helped lots of businesses and they haven't done very well, then to me I'm unsuccessful, even if I've made money, because I'm not going to get more business. I'm going to get negative reviews. I'm going to get slated, and I really want to. So I measure it in how happy and how satisfied are my customers. So often after workshops, I will ask for feedback and get them to do feedback forms and reviews to see that they're getting the level of service that I would want them to get.
I love that. I think sometimes it's easy to just think of success in monetary like terms, but I think it's definitely more than that. And I love how it's in terms of like more like on a more of a personal level, like, you know, and because you said you like helping others, so that's how you measure it. So I think it's just amazing, really.
Thank you.
So now I'm going to pass it on to Osas, and she's going to ask the next set of questions. But thank you so much.
Hi Camille, I just wanted to thank you again for being here, and I got a lot of gems from that first section. Literally I was just writing away. So I wanted to ask you, just to check, you partnered up with your mum, right, to open the Pink Ribbon lingerie company, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask what it was like starting it up with a partner versus starting up your solo business. I wanted to ask what the difference is.
So my mum is my business partner, but she's not an equal partner, and I think that's really important for me because it's my mum. So my mum is the inspiration behind the business, so I wanted her to have some part of it, and so I put in more capital than she did, but she is very much, how can I put it, a supporting role in terms of she's great as a sounding board. She's always there if I need to ask questions, but a lot of the time she'll leave me to do like most of the stuff. So she would normally do the customer service in terms of like the picking and the packing and the processing of parcels, but you will never see my mum on social media. She will never do a live. I can barely get a photo of her. You know, she's just like behind the scenes type of person.
Yeah.
But what she is good at is she's amazing at networking. My mum is a breast cancer survivor of 26 years. And so she's an inspiration to a lot of people. So she still goes to cancer support groups. She networks the max out of our business with every person she meets that she knows. She's always got business cards giving them out, you know. So that's what she is. She's like the support, the constant support of everything that we do. But she's also a sounding board. So if we launch a new collection, I'll ask her and then a few other people for feedback about ranges. So when we don't make our own products, we source from different brands, and so they come, we either go to a trade show or they come to the business center and we hire out a room and we have a meeting with them. They show you the whole collection. We never take everything, but they allow me, because they know us in the relationship that we have, to take photos, and then I will ask for feedback from like a focus group. Which products do you like? Why do you like them? That type of thing. And some brands will even give us samples that we can keep and then send back, or just keep. This depends on them. And so she's one of those people that can have that input because she is an end user of our product.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's a bit of a mix. What I would say though is, with anybody going to business with a business partner, make sure you have a contract. We are family first, and we need to remain family. And whether that's your friends, your family, or people that are like associates that become business partners, it's really important to know where the boundaries lie and the expectations. So because mine is like a bigger, like I put more money into the business, I work more within the business, I think the balance for me works out right. But if it was a 50-50, then you need to really make sure that everybody knows what they're expected to do, because sometimes you can feel like you're putting in more effort than the other person. So I would just make sure you've got clear guidelines, and really communication is really key.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, especially the contracting, because I think a lot of people, when going into businesses with other people, because they've known them beforehand or they're comfortable with them, forget that, to be honest, like there are boundaries in terms of business. Like there are things that need to be clear, and just because you're family or friends, you don't want that to even seep into like that aspect of your life as well.
I think what you have to kind of prepare yourself for is making sure that everything is okay if something went wrong. If one of you left, would the business still be okay? So this takes onto consideration of things like ownership. If one of you had the social media account that started the business, if that person leaves, does that social media account go with them? It's down to that level of detail, because you have to protect the business, and just making sure, because if you do fall out professionally, you need to make sure that the business can still continue.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, especially because something that small or something like a social media account could have like a great impact on a company, for example. So you wouldn't want it to be jeopardized because of lack of communication at the beginning. And I also wanted to ask, is it like harder, would you say it's harder or easier to start on your own versus with somebody else?
I think it depends on you, and I think it depends on the type of business. So
Right.
I like my consultancy, which I do on my own, but I do parts of the things that I do with people. So last week I hosted a PR workshop, and I got a PR expert, because I'm not a PR expert, but I know the importance of PR for clients and for startups. So anybody could join, a client of mine or just somebody that's seen a social media post, but I'm not the expert at everything. So sometimes I'll bring people in, which is really like supports the business. But I also think the benefits of working with someone is that you're not on your own, you're not in your own little silo. It's really difficult to sometimes self-motivate yourself when you're just you. So I think if you do work on your own, and this is post-COVID, going to like places like co-working spaces, so you feel like you're in an office environment, even if it's just once a month or once a week, is great. Going out of your office or your home or your desk, going to a coffee shop and taking your laptop is great. You know, meeting up with another business owner that you've met at networking is good, because you can just chat over things. And so don't just stay on your own, in your own little world, because sometimes you can miss out on opportunities by not by not having other people in your business. So yeah, I think it really depends. I think sometimes when you look at a business partner, you want to make sure you have different strengths so that you both complement the business in different ways. Because if you both have the same skill sets, why do you need to be together?
I think that's a very good point, because I think what I've got from what you've been saying as well is to know your capabilities as well. So if, for example, I know that I'm not particularly good at networking, I have to outsource or find a way basically to make sure that I'm getting the best quality networking out there. So I think those are like really, really good points that I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah.
And we also wanted to ask, because you said already that literally, especially at the beginning, having your own business can actually be very, very time consuming. So we wanted to ask, like, how do you juggle like having two businesses and then also being a mom? Like, I think it's something, especially us younger people, we kind of struggle with, like, trying to conceptualize. But how do you juggle both things?
Okay, so full disclosure, I don't feel like I'm a mum, but I have a grown-up child. So it's not how it used to be. I had my son at 20. He's now 22. So he's off at uni at the moment. Well, he's actually on his gap year. So he's in year 3, which is his not gap year, placement year. Right. So it's not like I've got young kids around and I'm homeschooling and it's crazy. So I'm in a very lucky position compared to a lot of my friends that are like that are business owners, and I have kids at home until next week and can't wait for next week to happen. But I would say, so when I started my first business, my son was, in the years that I was development, he was in like year 6. And that was good because I was working from home, I wasn't commuting. I actually found it harder when I was working for other people because I was commuting into London. You drop the child off at the childminders or breakfast club at 8 and you had to be back at 6. And if there was a train delay, you were like stressing and running through stations and running.
Yeah.
And it was very stressful in the mornings because you didn't want to walk into work late, and it was stressful in the way back. And then you've got to be a mum and be full on, and then you've got to cook dinner and you've got to do homework. And it was just intense. So I actually found that part when I was working in corporate industries harder than working for myself, because as a business owner, you can juggle what you do. So I'm not a morning person, I'm a night owl. So I used to be like, put him to bed, then do a few more hours of work. Where I've got friends, they'll be up at 5, the kids get up at 7:30, and they do 2.5 hours before the kids, and then they sort out the school run and they do all of that. And then, so what it allows you to do for working for yourself is it allows you to be flexible. So maybe you don't have to pay for after school care anymore and you can pick them up, or maybe you choose to still do that if you've got meetings. So it just gives you a bit more flexibility working for yourself. But it's not easy to balance 2 businesses and a child, or 2 children on 1 business, or life. Like, the hardest job is being a parent, no matter what. It's the most rewarding job. It's hard. but it's worth the sacrifice. But you just make it work, and you are sometimes feeling like everything's just working perfectly, and then something goes wrong, and then other times you're just exhausted, but you just, you know, we're amazing. Women are amazing. We just find the energy, and it just comes together. There's always a way, but it's not easy always. That's the hardest part, is the balance, getting the balance right. So for me, I have certain things that are non-negotiables. So my non-negotiables were being able to have time in the evening with my son. So I would cut off at certain times when he was younger. And as you have teenage kids, they just want to go to their room, but I wanted to be available. I didn't want to be like, I'm at my desk. So even if I was in the front room and they were in their room playing computer games, they could always come and I could be mum, instead of being like, oh, give me 10 minutes, I'm doing work. So I really was aware of that when my son was a teenager. The other non-negotiable is I love holidays, and I'm struggling because of COVID, but I would always go on, and Caroline knows this because we used to work together, I would always go on holiday minimum twice a year, normally more than that. And one holiday had to be for myself, and one of the people that's here tonight, we've been on holiday together, Claudia, and one holiday would be with my son or family. So that was my, like, if I'm going to work really hard, I'm going to enjoy life as well. There's got to be a balance of all the hard work. And so some people be like, oh, you only need one holiday a year, or you can't afford to go on holiday. I'm like, I'm going on holiday. I'm not working this hard without an end goal of sunshine and warm weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer, especially because I think women just do make it happen, to be fair. Like, everybody does have like their different things they'll prioritize, but at the end of the day, it's about finding that balance and be able to prioritize what you want to prioritize, and being able to relax as well. So I think a lot of people forget like the relaxation part, but as you highlighted, it's very important to take time out for yourself, time out for your family, and make sure it's like clear cut timings and things like that. So yeah.
One thing to add is, when I started my career, a lot of people we were coming to a time at the end of a job is for life. So there'd be people that the company, when I was at Debenhams, there'd people that had been there 20, 30 years. And I was like, who does that? Like, that was just new to me. And then we used to have this thing called final salary pension, which, oh my God, would have been amazing if I could stick out staying at one place somewhere. It basically meant if you were at a company for loads and loads of years, the final salary that you were on was based on what pension you would earn when you retire. So that was like why people would stay in companies. That doesn't happen anymore, guys. Sorry to burst your bubble. But so whereas I literally moved every 2 years, I kind of moved up. And so jobs weren't for life. But now it's really important about having more than one income stream. I implore anybody to always have more than one income stream. So even if I've got my business has more than one revenue stream for being a consultant. I've got one-to-one clients. I do one-off power hours with people, and then I run workshops. So there's 3 different ways I can earn money. And then I also have an ebook, ebooks, which are like evergreen products that will always generate money. They can generate money while I'm asleep. I don't have to be there. So that's just in my business, is more than one stream of income. But on the side of that, you want to think about, is there anything else that I can do? Do I have a skill? Am I good at copywriting? Am I good at proofreading? Am I good at, I don't know what it is, making something. Have another way to make income, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And you can see with COVID, we don't know what's going to happen. So I would always say to anybody, your job is not secure by any means, no matter what job it is. So always make sure that you're secure by having another stream of income. And if you can afford to, just put that money aside for when you need it.
Right. And that leads,
not aside, invest it wisely, because
into something else.
In the interest rates.
So I was going to say that leads on to our next question. So we just wanted to ask, like, how did you ensure your business was still up and running and like thriving during the pandemic? And why do you think so many other businesses have basically sunk or they've had issues?
Okay, so there's 2 answers to that. There are certain businesses that are recession proof. Recession proof businesses are food businesses generally, children's wear because kids always keep growing, children's toys because kids always still get presents no matter what. You can't afford the holiday, but you're still going to get a birthday and a Christmas present. There's just like, it's going to happen. And then also the beauty industry. The beauty industry is my industry, is very recession proof. So if people want to pick me up, they go and buy themselves a mascara or a lipstick or a new foundation or something like that. So those are recession proof businesses. So that's one, which mine are none of those. So Pink Ribbon is not thriving at the moment. Our majority of our sales came from, we sell swimwear, lingerie, sportswear, and clothing. Majority of our sales come from swimwear. Swimwear sales like massively peaked between April and October, and COVID happened in March, and we bought our stock in February. I still have 95% of my stock from last February. I didn't buy any more swimwear this year. I don't know what's happening. And then, so it definitely isn't thriving. And that's just the way it is. It's like ticking over. But because I have two businesses, one can help supplement the other. Hence why streams of income. Now, what happened with COVID is everybody was like, I'm on furlough, or I've lost my job. I need to start a business. So then they needed my services on the consultancy side. So that side of the business has grown dramatically. My mailing list has built dramatically. People joining my courses, doing my workshops. My services I offer has also changed in the last year because of what people have needed. So yeah, so luckily, I'm very lucky that they're not both in the industry that's been affected. One's done really well and one's struggled.
Right. So I can see it's also a good thing to be quite malleable as well. So like you've had the opportunity to adapt your business so that it actually caters to the actual current situation, which I think is great as well. So we have one last question, because I think we're kind of running out of time. So knowing what you know now, based on your experiences so far, if you were to take a step back to when you were younger, what would you tell your future self?
I would tell my future self to follow your gut instinct, because it's always right. To start things sooner. I started my first business at 30. So, you know, or like developing the business. Although I tried at 25 and got turned down. So let's be real. But start as early as possible and learn from your mistakes fast. You're going to make mistakes. Do not wait for perfection. Do not wait for everything to be ready. Just launch. Learn really quickly. Learn from your mistakes. And it doesn't matter if you fail 1, 2, 3, or 5 businesses. The 6th one could be the one that's successful. Most people that you look at that you think are multimillionaires and billionaires were never successful in their first business. Never at all. So just be mindful of that. And I would tell my future self to start earlier, believe in myself, and enjoy the process. And oh, by the way, when you think you look fat in pictures, it's not true, because 10 years later you'll be like, oh my God, why did I think like that? Because I'm telling you, I look back on certain photos and thinking, oh my God, I was so slim. Or like, just get over that mindset, because you look great. Honestly. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's been so much.
Stay consistent in my exercising and going to the gym, because it's really hard when you stop to get back to exercising.
Honestly. But thank you so much for this.
So let's go back to Carisha's question. So she asked, just before we go into Michaela's session, sorry about that, how much would you recommend people charge for workshops?
Okay, so I don't know if Carisha can unmute herself if she can. It really depends on how long the workshop is and how much experience you have and the topic. So depending on what it is that you are specializing in, if it's a really niche area that not many people know about. So for example, if you were an architect and it's a really niche tailored thing, then you can really charge a premium. If it's something that lots of people do, but people are just coming to you for it because they like you, they like your style of teaching or of working, then you can just set the price at what you want. There's no wrong or right with pricing. So I have workshops that are $47 in US, which works out about £35 for 2 hours. But then I also have other workshops that are more. So it really depends. And also it depends if you want a small number of people there, if you want large. If you want a large number of people, then a lower price is going to be more advantageous, but then at the same time having a higher price point can really get you the right audience. So there's no wrong or right answer. I can't really help with that. I'd need to know a bit more about what you do.
Okay, thank you. I don't even know how to explain it. So I don't want to take up too much time as well. So I don't know if I should just maybe speak to you about it afterwards, maybe.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to leave my contact details in the chat because I do have to leave at 7:30 promptly. So let's do that. But I hope that kind of makes sense to everybody. It's really, what you can do is you can look at what your competitors charge as a guide, and then also look at your level of expertise compared to the competitors, because someone with 1 or 2 years experience is very different from someone that has 15 years experience as well.
All right. Thank you.
Trying to unmute myself there. Thank you, Carisha. If anybody has any other questions, please do feel free to put it in the chat. And, oh, am I on mute? Yes, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Tyra to take it to this part 2, where we're going to be hearing from the amazing Michaela.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So round 2, we're going to hear some amazing, even more amazing gems. So I would like to welcome Michaela Gooden, who's an ex-football player who has experience coaching and teaching, and now has her own agency. And she also has experience in the creative industry, working as a personal stylist. So can we welcome Michaela and give a virtual Zoom round of applause? Hi Michaela, thank you again so much for joining us this evening.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So the first thing that we want to ask you is just tell us about yourself and give us a brief introduction.
Okay, so similar to Camille, I was born and raised in Wandsworth also. I went to a school called Elliot. It was called Elliot back in the day, but I think it's APA now. I grew up playing football, so I played for Fulham ladies until the age of 18, and then I went to America for 4 years on a scholarship. So football is embedded in my background, hence why now eventually I've now become an agent. So the role of the agent is we manage players. So we help players move maybe from one club to another. So we'll be negotiating deals. We work on brand sponsorships. It really depends on the type of player, because you can have a player that needs everything in terms of like the whole life sorted, or you can have a player that just solely needs help with their footballing career. So, but I've been an agent for a few years now, but I got to my agent role going through different avenues. So I was, as you said, I was coaching, I worked in fashion for a bit, I did a bit of teaching as well, but it all linked back to me working with athletes. While I was coaching athletes. While I was styling, my main goal was to style for athletes. So I think although I've been through different jobs, they've all linked to the one job that I'm working now. And yeah, I think this is my career now for the next 10, 15 years, I would say.
Great, that's amazing. So did you always know you wanted to be a professional footballer? And like, how did you start? Like, what was your route all the way to how you started to getting your scholarship? What was your route?
Okay, so I had older boy cousins. My parents would always have my cousins over for the weekend, and in order for me to be a part of their little crew, I had to play football. I loved it, but it was a way for me to fit in also. So my love came from just fitting in with my cousins, and then I got into Fulham Centre of Excellence
for the Royal College of Music Orchestra.
I got it. Can you hear me?
No, you're on. Sorry, yeah, someone unmuted. I'll mute.
Okay. I got into Fulham at 9, so I was with the Centre of Excellence up until 18. And growing up, now women's football is you can have a career, you can get paid a very good wage and have a long-term career. But when I was growing up, that wasn't the case. So my dream was to always go to America. So I got to about, I think, maybe 15, 16. And that's when I started focusing fully on in how to get scholarship and what would be my next route. So yeah, I sourced a scholarship, thankfully, and I went to America for 4 years. I spent 2 years in North Carolina and then 2 years in Tennessee.
That's so amazing. That's so cool. That's so good. You mentioned how growing up, like women football wasn't very like female football wasn't really like maybe like talked about or done as much like here. So do you feel like it was more common in America then?
Yeah, it was a lot bigger. It's still now bigger than the men's side in America. So I think a lot of players from my generation growing up, a lot of players would want to go to America and play professionally out there because it had a bigger platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely always a dream of mine. I think if I was playing now, my dream would be to play for the WSL in the UK. Mm-hmm. But luckily, I think a lot of players, what they can do, they can also go to America and play in the WSL. So it's a lot better now.
Yeah.
So much better.
That's great. I even find that because I'm really tall, so I'm 6'1". So when I was growing up, I liked playing netball, but I also wanted to play basketball too. But I couldn't find in my area like any girl like women basketball clubs as well. But like in America, like it's because I've got family there, so when I would go, they'd be like, "Why don't you play like basketball?" But it's like in the UK, it's not really like there's barely any teams and stuff. A bit more now, but not I feel like as much as there is like in America.
Yeah, basketball's huge in America for women as well. Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah.
Really big.
So I know you mentioned like this is leading on to our next question because society.
I can't hear you properly, Caroline. I mean, sorry, not Caroline.
Oh, really? Okay. How about now? I don't know.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Okay. This is leading on to my next question actually because society typically associates football with being like a masculine sport. So did you feel any pressure to like shy away from pursuing football due to this?
Not so much pressure, but I did get a lot of, "Oh, you're good for a girl," or "Yeah, you're okay, but women can't play." I got a lot of that. And then I had a great support network of friends who were very, very supportive of me playing. But because there was no professional league, I almost understood where people were coming from because it wasn't supported as well as the men's game is supported. So yeah, I got a few digs here and there, but I loved playing the game. I enjoyed it. I loved my teammates. So it was never ever going to stop me. It just pushed me further to go to America, I guess, and do what I wanted to do.
I think that's so good and inspirational. Like when you love something so much and you believe in what you can do, that you're not letting what other people say like stop you, because it's sometimes easy to get other people get in your head and you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this and I'm the only one. So I love that.
But then saying that, there was a time where it was touch and go. I think I was about 15, 16, but that was more for social life, like because I would train on a Friday and play on a Saturday, so that's my weekends gone. And at that age, my friends are going out and they're just doing stuff, and I couldn't be a part of that. So that was the battle, but I managed to get through it.
That's great. I think sometimes it's like little sacrifices like that you have to see like the bigger picture sometimes. And when you're like that age and everyone else is doing like going out, because it feels like so important at that age.
Yeah. Felt like I'm missing out.
Yeah.
I think that has scarred me. Now I have like FOMO, so I never want to miss out on anything, and I think it's stemmed from me not being able to go when I was younger.
Yeah. So your 4-year scholarship playing in the States. I think you mentioned that you were 18. So when you got that scholarship, so what was like your experience like in the States? Like, did you learn anything new about yourself during this time?
Yeah. So I took a gap year, 18 between 19, and then I saved as much as I could, and then I left when I was 19. So I spent 2 years in North Carolina. America's so I always say we speak the same language, okay, but their lifestyle's very, very different. They live very differently out there, and it was almost like a cultural shock because where I grew up, you would have corner shops, or you've got your local shop. You live on an estate, you've got the park. In America, it's very spaced out, so they don't have corner shops. You've got to drive to wherever you want to go to. So that I struggled with because people didn't really walk around. There was no like public transport. So that was a wake-up call. And so North Carolina was amazing, very multicultural. People were fun. It was the best time. And then I went to Tennessee. Tennessee is where I learned a lot about myself. So Tennessee is very, very old-fashioned. It was a massive, massive cultural shock. There weren't many Black people within. They've got Memphis that has a community of Black people, but outside of that, there aren't many Black people. So I think I struggled with my identity there, because they're quite old-fashioned, so they dress differently. Little things like that. So my style was more like a London urban style where I wasn't understood. So I think, again, I had to stay true to myself. So it was almost like an identity battle, but I had to remain. That's when I dug deep and was thinking, okay, well, I need to remain true to myself. I can't let these people influence me. So although I stand out and I'm different, I still found the strength to just be true to myself. So yeah, I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah, I think staying true to yourself can be like hard. Can be really hard when you're like only one. Like for me, because growing up, I live in Hertfordshire. So again, I'm in like primary school. There wasn't a lot of like Black people either. So you sometimes just, you just little things like hair, and you wanted my hair straight, or I didn't want braids, all these other things. And it's something like now that I love my braids, I love these things. So I agree. It's just sometimes learning. So now you look back at it and it's like almost you're glad for those experiences because of how you are now.
Completely. It's made me who I am, shaped me who I am. So yeah, definitely. Spot on.
That's amazing. So like you mentioned, so you're currently a football agent, and you kind of touched about what a football agent does, but how would you as a football agent like help aspiring football players?
Okay, so there's different levels of agencies. Okay, so me personally, I invest a lot of time into my players. So we usually source players from, I would say, the age of 15 to 17, 18. So you can imagine at that age, they're so young. So along the way, I'm helping develop my player in a sense. So I want my player within 10 years to get to a point where they no longer need me no more, So I'm mentoring, but I'm also advising. Like, I need to know what's best for my player in terms of, if I'm moving my player to a new club, is that club suitable for my player? Is my player going to be okay identity-wise? Are they going to fit culturally? So there's lots of different aspects to the role of an agent. But for me, myself, I invest heavily. And it's through family as well. We make sure everyone's a part of this puzzle, because especially in the men's side, they get so much money so early on that they make so many mistakes. So it's about having the right people around them to just guide them and mentor them. So it's almost like a mentor / older sibling, I would say.
So it's like more personal, kind of more.
It has to be. Yeah, because you're managing someone's career. Like, they need to trust you. They have to have that level of trust that you can go out there and represent them. So yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and it's like more like a role model. And do you think like your career has like helped you, because like know something that maybe you thought you would have needed or wanted at the time, like helped you to like
yeah
in that way?
Yeah. I think playing football, I can see it from that aspect, but also even going to America, you're quite isolated out there. So if my player's going to a new club, he or she may be isolated. So I can see it from that. So there's lots of different aspects that I can see it from. Yeah, it's definitely shaped and made me understand what they need. Most definitely.
That's great. Okay, so my next question that we have is that we know that you also had experience being a personal stylist. So how did you get into styling and fashion, and where do you get your inspiration for styling clients?
Right. So it's always been a passion. Like, I love fashion. I've always loved it, and I didn't really think there was a career in it. So when I came back from America, that's when I got into teaching. But on the weekends, I would do personal styling, just like I was interning, assisting.
Yeah.
Just working. I wasn't getting paid, but it was just something that I thought, let me just dabble in to see if I want to pursue a career in it. So yeah, I did styling. I got my inspiration from people around me. When I travel, I get my inspiration from other countries, from what people wear, from TV, from magazines. I could see something on someone and think that looks great, and then see it on someone else and try and put the two together. So it's just from my surroundings that I got my inspiration. And then I went into personal styling, which is crazy because there's a lot of skills from personal styling that I can transfer over to be an agent, because it's all about trust. So both careers have a level of trust. So although they're very different, there's lots of similarities within them. So yeah, no, it's helped a lot. That was my career before becoming an agent, so it's slowly I transitioned over into becoming an agent because of styling.
And that actually links a bit to my next questions, because football and being a personal stylist are kind of both different. But then how would you, what advice would you give to someone who has different interests that don't seem to like immediately, as you see them, like marry up? How would you advise them to manage their different interests and maintain like a portfolio kind of career? Because I know you mentioned just now, like they're both about trust, which is something you might not realize from the surface, that they're both, yeah.
Take your time. So if you're working full-time in a career, even if it's a few hours here and there, just if you want to get into a second career, just dedicate a few hours a week just to see. It's a tester almost. Take your time, and as you progress and you're dwelling in it more, you'll see how the stars will align. In a sense, you'll see what will connect. So you'll learn as you go, but just take your time. Don't rush or put too much pressure. Don't force it.
Great, that's some amazing tips and advice. So I'm now going to pass on to Osas, who's going to answer the next set of questions. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hiya. So we got a lot of gems from the first section, and we wanted to ask, like, specifically about football. What advice would you give to somebody starting out? Like, what do you think is the key thing that you would tell to somebody who is trying to get into football?
If you're not in a club already, obviously finding a club is the first thing you need to do, and dedicate hours outside of training to practicing as well. I think I didn't do enough practicing back in the day, but I think if it was me growing up now, I would say do at least 2 or 3 more days. It could be an hour, could be half an hour, just practicing on your own to master that craft.
Cool. So what would you also say has been like the biggest challenge to get to where you are today, and how did you overcome it, so anybody else who's like also coming through the same process knows what kind of challenges they might have to face?
I haven't had one huge, like, big challenge. I've had small challenges along the way, but I'm very big on reflection. So if I go through something, like in the evening, I would write it down, how it went wrong, how could I have changed it, or what could I do next. So I think for me, there's lots of small obstacles that I've come against, but I take it in my stride and reflect. So yeah, I would say reflection's a key factor in trying to come across obstacles.
I think that's important as well, because even for small things, like reflecting on small things can make it that much better. So then in the grand scheme of things, like everything becomes better. So I think that's very, very good advice.
Let it go. Don't dwell on it. You've reflected, you've looked at it, now leave it to one side.
Yeah, because I think especially when it's like negative things, it can sometimes weigh on you, especially when it's something that's like about skill. Something so much about skill rather than like, and I don't want to say something you can't improve, because you can, but as in there's a basic level of skill and like you're trying to improve that. So it can get a bit frustrating. But if you just like have that mindset of, okay, cool, I'll do it better this time, this is how I'm going to do it, and then just put it into action rather than dwelling on it, I think that's literally the best way to go about it.
There we go, spot on.
So we wanted to ask, do you have any positive female role models in your life that you look up to?
Yes, I do. My mum obviously would be my first. So she had me when she was 17. She was really young when she had me. So to put her life on hold and invest so much into me and my siblings, it goes a long way. She's like my number one role model. But I also, my friends, my girlfriends around me, I've got an amazing bunch of female friends, and we all push each other to do better. So they're also my role models. Yeah, my friends and my mum.
Oh, that's really nice. It's good to have a good circle of people around you, especially like you said, you were going through some things, especially growing up. But I think having that circle around you then can make things a lot more easy for you.
Yeah, you need to have that circle, and they need to encourage and support and push. If your circle's not doing those 3 things, I don't think that circle's the right circle for you. They have to have your back, you know, and what you can do better.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you say success means to you?
Oh, success. I think it's seeing people. So it's if I've invested time into someone or I've invested energy into someone, it's seeing that person then succeed. So once I've seen my work transferred over to someone and seeing them succeed, that's success for me. Seeing me make a difference positively is success.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it's very, very similar to Camille's.
Very. She was saying that, I was nodding like that.
It sounds familiar, yeah. So I think that's really important because I think a lot of people, like Tara was saying, might just think of success in terms of money, but in terms of your impact in the world, it is very, very important. And a lot of people do talk about legacy nowadays. So like what impact will you have left kind of thing. So I think that's really, really important, how you can affect somebody else's life so positively just from helping with your own experience, so from what you know. So things like that I think are very, very inspiring because not everybody has the same insight to go and do that, which is awesome. Yeah. I also wanted to say about sisterhood as well, actually. I think that is kind of the essence of She Is You as well, just to plug it in. I think it is the essence of She Is You. Like, I really do think that has helped me recently understand how having a good support group around you, having people who like want you to win, can really drive you a lot further. I think beforehand, I was kind of, I still am quite a private person, but I think having people and network makes it very, very clear to me that, okay, cool, like having people around you that you can go and tell this, literally can elevate your work so much more. You have people that are sharing, you have people that are trying to give you advice, you have people who are encouraging you. So I think everybody does need those people to fall back on. So yeah, I think it's very, very important what you said.
I think you grow more when you've got people around you as a team collectively. So I'm an agent. I could get 10 players and I could help those players grow, but those players are going to grow a lot faster if I bring other people in along with me. If I'm giving my knowledge back to the next generation, that's going to help me grow, you know. So we have to all work together in order. You can't grow on your own. You need a team around you, most definitely.
I love that. So I was going to ask as well, because you have quite a non-traditional path, what do you think about non-traditional paths to success, and what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow a more non-traditional path but feels pressured to stick to a conventional route, so like office work or going to school, going to university, like the traditional pathway?
Right. I think for me, growing up, my parents always encouraged me to follow my dream. Always, whatever it be, maybe they encourage me to follow my dream. So I think if you don't have that in your family household, it's going to be difficult, right? But I think we're all here for a purpose. Only we can know what our purpose is here for. So if we have parents applying pressure from their own insecurities and their own worries, I think that's an issue for parents to have to deal with. It's difficult because you have to be very mentally strong, but if you work in an industry for 20 years and it's an industry that you don't want to work in, it's a waste of 20 years in a sense, isn't it? You'll look back on life and think, I'm only doing it to please someone else. I think we have to make decisions to please ourselves. Like what Camille was saying, follow your gut. If your gut's telling you to go for a certain career, go for that career. It's going to be difficult because you're going to upset people, but that's their problem. Don't take their baggage on with you. So go for it. Don't hold back. Life's too short. Way too short.
I think it's important as well because you have to enjoy what you're doing. Like you said, if you're doing the same thing for 20 plus years and you don't even like it, it's going to get to a point where literally mentally you will struggle to like continue on with that. So I do think it's important to embrace what you actually love rather than other people's opinions, because they really can't live for you at the end of the day. Like, it is your life to live. So yeah,
your purpose, and it's your purpose. So yeah, you live it.
100%. So our last question is, and it ties to like the whole theme, knowing what you know now based on your experiences so far, if you were to take a step back to when you were younger, what advice would you give your future self?
I'm still giving my future self advice now, but I would say it's never a mistake, it's always a lesson. It's always a lesson. I used to look at things like when it went wrong, I was like, oh, that's a mistake, I made a mistake. But you grow from those mistakes. So don't look at it as a negative, look at it as growth. Okay, it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but you're going to grow from it. And I would also say take risks. I think we're too fearful these days, especially with all of what's going on. Like, there's so much fear around us. Just
Right.
put the fear to one side and just take risks. You'll never know your true self if you don't take risks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah, I
what
love that. Especially in terms of what you said about the non-traditional paths as well. I feel like taking those risks like enable you to be who, like, true to yourself as well. So yeah, I definitely hear that.
Yeah.
So that's great. I don't know if anybody.
The Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
Great book. Changed my life.
I think everyone needs to get onto that right now.
Just saying that, I was like, round of applause. Yeah, great book. Everybody needs to go and get it.
Oh, we love to see it. So we've got some, like Tara said, we've got a new book for our list. I'm definitely going to go and try and see that.
Good book.
Lovely. So do you have any questions? I'll just give everyone like a minute to get their questions through.
I don't think we had any questions come through just yet. But if anybody does want to put a question in, you are more than welcome to do that right now. Whilst we wait for that to come in, do you want to show the Dear Future Me page?
Right, yeah.
And also just to say massive thank you, Michaela. That was awesome.
Oh, no, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No, you're so welcome. Okay, so yeah, feel free to pop questions in the chat, ladies, if you have any. Whilst you think about that, we just want to quickly show you the Dear Future Me page. OSAS has 10 million tabs open like I do on my laptop right now. I'm sure some of us can relate to that. OSAS, do you want to walk through this?
Yeah, so essentially this is the page that we'd want you guys to use the link. You can use the link and get onto this page. And on this page is where you would like type in your message for your future self and then send it off, and you can see the options that I'm circling here. So it's got like deliver in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And essentially what we're going to do as part of this program, each of the weeks, take notes of like key takeaways that we've got from the sessions. And then at the end, we will send everybody around like all the key takeaways that we've all collectively have gathered together. So you can use these, you can wait for us to do that and then use those gems in your letter to your future self, or you could go ahead and use it these weeks and add on to it, or send yourself new emails every week, however you want to do it. But essentially with this, you'll just be able to send an email to yourself. So for 1 year, 3 year or 5 years, again, you can add a picture, a selfie. I think this could be quite funny, but essentially it is to help yourself to provide yourself with like a vision of something that you wanted to achieve, and then in a year's time, when you might have even forgotten that you did this, you then have the opportunity to reflect back and think, oh, like, wow, okay, this is what I had as a goal for myself, and then see whether you have taken that on board. And if you haven't, you can continue to then like strive to or make steps to. But I think there are like great prizes and opportunities where you will be able to impart a lot of the things that you've been told, and you'll be told them again and again. For example, if you're with Business Launchpad or getting mentored by Shapeways and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunities. But yeah, I think we've got some questions coming in actually.
Yes, we have got 2 questions that come in. You can unmute the mic, ladies, if you want to ask your questions personally, or I can read them out. Thank you, Christiana, for your feedback. She said that she's totally enjoyed listening to Camille and Michaela. Both your stories were really inspirational. Thank you for your feedback. And I do agree to that as well. So I've got a question from Camille. And try and find it now. I'm scrolling through the chat. Can anyone see it?
I unmuted. My question was, are you just a football agent? Not just, but are you an agent for any other sports as well?
So right now it's just football, but my 5-year plan is definitely to tap into other sports, most definitely, yeah.
Okay, and are you an agent for both girls and boys, or males and females?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, both.
All right, cool, yeah, great, thank you.
No worries.
Tyra, I think your question is next, actually. I'm trying to find it here, but yeah.
I had one more question. I wanted to ask, what is your favorite thing about being an agent?
What's my favorite thing? I think it's working with an athlete, an elite athlete, the mind of an elite athlete. I find really interesting, and seeing them progress, even going through their struggles and managing to get them out of their struggles and going along with them on their high journey. So I think it's the whole journey from start to end and the mindset. I find it very interesting. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I can see another question. There's another question in the chat. I can see it pop up. Someone asked, oh yeah, you said that you had a cultural shock, but you managed to stay true to yourself. How did you manage to do this?
I think I recognized that I was different and I embraced it. So instead of shying away from being different, I kind of just ran with it, and it worked in my favor because I think people, when it was a culture shock, I think they was just surprised. They didn't understand, you know. So sometimes when you see something you don't understand, you don't know how to process it. So I think after a while, they learned to understand me, and then they found me interested, and they started asking questions. So I think if I would have shied away from who I was, they wouldn't have learned themselves. So they also learned, and I also learned. So it was a win-win. Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. And we've got one more question as well. Someone, where's it gone? I just saw a question. How do you, both of you, Camille and Michaela, how do you overcome self-doubt?
I'll go first. So I would say that imposter syndrome is totally normal and that everybody gets it, no matter whether you are starting out or established or successful multimillionaire. We all have imposter syndrome, and it's really easy to compare yourself to that perfect Instagram expectation. Or another comparison is comparing your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 20. So I would suggest trying not to do that and really realize that you aren't competing with anybody, you're on your own journey. And sometimes if it's really troubling me, I'll just move on to do something else and distract myself and then go back to it. I also have an accountability group. There's 4 of us, we meet every Monday, and then I have 2 one-to-one sessions with two of them as accountability partners, and I talk to them about it, and they kind of really motivate me, and it just turns the whole feeling around. So like Michaela was talking about having a really good circle, that's what my accountability partners do. And we're all business owners in different businesses, but we understand what it's like to run a business, and so we know how to kind of give each other advice and support when it's needed. So get yourself a good circle.
Definitely, I'd agree. It's your circle. I talk my doubt out. So if I'm worried about something, I talk it out a lot. So it's knowing who to talk to and the right people to talk to. So talking it out for me helps my doubt, and it's part of the process. As bad as it sounds, and it's really an annoying answer, but it's part of the journey. So you have to go through fear and self-doubt in order to get through to the other side, but it's just embracing it. And once you've overcome that, it gets a lot easier.
That's great. Can I ask a question, ladies? This one is actually to Camille. Hi, it's Felicia. I've literally just got in from work, and well, I have a question I really want to ask. I'm so sorry I missed most of it. Michaela, I when the ladies were prepping for this, they can tell you I had so many questions. I was like, oh yeah, we could ask this, we could ask that, we could ask this. My first question I'm going to ask Camille, actually. Camille, so I know that you've had this entrepreneur mindset from like day one, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of young people nowadays, what I find is they kind of struggle with, especially with things happening in the world at the moment. And mainly, I think since the university fees came in and people started looking at other options, right? But they kind of struggle with this thing about, do I become an entrepreneur or do I stick to education?
Okay, so
what's your take on that?
Okay, so I never went to university. I left home at 16 and I got my flat at 17, which was unheard of. It's normally 18 and now it's like 21 or 25, so times change.
Or never.
Yeah. But because I had a flat, I would have to give up my housing benefit support. So at 16, I had left home. By 17, at 16, I had like a shared accommodation place. I had 3 jobs and going to college. And I basically had to be self-sufficient. But what I would say is, what that meant is to go to university back then, you only had to pay, I think, £3,000 a year. But I would lose my housing benefit support. So I couldn't afford to go to university. So I had that trap of like, do I live in halls and then be homeless, or what do I do? So I chose not to go to university. You don't need to go to university for every career that you have. My son goes to university, but I'm telling you, most people will not do the career that they study to do. So I always say to my son, do what you love and are passionate about. But I always encourage him to have a side hustle. So he is, and some people will hate this, but some people will also understand it. He resells trainers. His dad is a trainer collector. He's had trainers galore from the day he was born. And so every now and then he'll buy 1 or 2 pairs and he'll keep one and he'll resell one. So he's not like a big, massive reseller like you saw that kid who was the son of the Nike president that got sacked the other day. But, you know, that's what he'll do. He'll go and source trainers and he'll do that. And that just gives him extra income. And he also has part-time jobs. So even though he goes to university in Bath, he has been a steward at Crystal Palace Football Club since he was 15. So when he'd come back at the weekends, he could go and get work at the weekends if he's back in London, because it was like, you don't have to be there every single week. He has a placement at the moment, which is on hold until March the 8th. And then he also has a part-time job at the moment working as well. So you have to do both. But it's not like his job is just to give him extra money. It's not necessarily like an entrepreneurial thing, but it's giving him key skills. So, you know, you weren't there earlier, but I was talking about when I was in my career, I knew I wanted to have my own job. So the skills it's given him is face-to-face communication, dealing with his peers, working with other people, which he's never had that environment. Working as a steward gives him responsibility. He learns skills of crowd safety, things that he could use in other environments. So, and he also is surrounded by me. He grew up with me being an entrepreneur. His grandma's always been an entrepreneur, so he knows those type of things. So it wouldn't come to surprise me down the line if he says, I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to do this or that. And I don't think nowadays you need to go to university. I know my son is going to come out of university with incredible student loans and debts and stuff like that. And for some people, you might not want to do that. But I also know that, I don't know if this is answering your question, Felicia, but I would say if you can, follow what you love, but work out how you can monetize it. Whether it's learning it at university and doing something on the side, or doing what you love and maybe doing education, especially now when we don't know what's the next 5 years future is. You know, there's nothing to stop you doing open university, which is online, because half the people are doing online learning anyway, and do it part-time in the evenings over a number of years instead of all at once.
Okay, amazing.
Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Camille.
Okay.
And Michaela, sorry ladies, if you give me the chance to ask one more question. I know I've come in late and I'm like trying to squeeze in questions. Michaela, my question for you is this. With sports, so I remember my niece, she used to do athletics. She was an amazing sprinter.
Okay.
And then by the time she got to, let's say about 15, 16, when the guys started paying attention and all of that stuff, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to become too muscular. You know, I want to remain that. What would your advice be to girls, especially, who have an interest in sports and can actually make a career out of it, but have those kind of peer pressures to deal with?
Okay, so the peer pressure is always going to be there. I had peer pressure a lot when I was younger, especially from boys. So I think boys fear a strong athletic woman. I think that's just a struggle that they go through, right? So that's always going to be there. But if young females are in a sport from, let's say, 11, 12, I think it's a duty of whoever's, maybe their parents, role models, whoever's around them, to really try and teach them how to love themselves and explain to them that they have a gift, because they're going to come across the challenges of the boys. It is always going to happen, but we have to mentally prepare them for when it happens. So I think it comes down to maybe teaching them from a younger age of how important they are and how loved they are, because that's always going to be a battle. I had that battle, and I had to I had my mum who was encouraging me a lot, but still, you don't want to hear from your mum. You need to hear from peer groups, and maybe it's a case of having an older role model who's also in the same sport, who's also a female, to pair them with.
Yeah,
that could work.
amazing. Thank you, ladies.